Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Pearsall. I am the community manager here at Committee for Children in the Second Step program, and I am really glad to be able to bring to you all today the latest installment of our Meet the Makers of Second Step live stream series, where we get a chance to hear from the folk who are working behind the scenes to create the Second Step programs. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Committee for Children's offices sit on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the first people of Seattle, Washington, the Duwamish tribe. As we honor the Duwamish people and their ancestors, it's also important that we consider our place in the past, present, and future history of the indigenous people of our region, as well as how we can best support them. Thank you. Now, I'd like to introduce to you today's guest, Dr. Jasmine Williams. She's the lead researcher on the Second Step Middle School program. Dr. Williams, welcome.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me, and hello to everyone in our Facebook community.
Of course. So I'd like to start off just by asking if you could tell us a little bit about your role in the development of the middle school program.
Yeah, so my training is in developmental psychology, and over the years, my work has really focused on adolescent development, teacher-student relationships, academic motivation engagement, educational equity, and now SEL. And so when I joined the middle school team in fall 2018, my role was really to work with the team to understand what are the needs of teachers and students today. How could we incorporate their needs into our program, and what can we do to continuously improve our programs?
So, and I think you were really kind of the central part of the big update that came for the middle school program last fall, and the revamp of the program that happened then. And one of the things that was kind of an important part of that update was centering authentic student voice within the lessons. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what does that look like? What's kind of embedded in the lessons? How are they designed in order to kind of bring out that authentic student voice?
Yeah, so when I first started with the team, one of the things that we did was that, we went around to different schools across the country and locally in the Seattle area to really hear from teachers and students about like what was missing. And something that we really heard from the students was that their voices were somewhat missing from the program. And so some of the things that we did to make space for more student reflection and student voice as the program is really making sure that in the warm up and in the wrap up and within the program, there was some part of each lesson where students are reflecting on their own lives and applying the lesson content to what's going on in their world. And then also we added performance tasks to the end of each unit. So each unit culminates with an open-ended activity where students are asked to apply everything they've learned in the unit to create a type of project, a small artifact of their learning from the unit that they can really make their own. So for example, in our unit 2 bullying and harassment, 7th grade students have the opportunity to make a public service announcement that is geared towards helping other youth stop and prevent bullying and harassment. There's also some performance tasks in 8th grade where students are creating a pathway to their future adult selves. And so again, really centered around the students' experiences and the world that they want to see.
So what is I think from a student point of view, I kind of understand that that'd be really exciting. They get to kind of talk about themselves and see themselves in the program. What is what's working on in the background? Why is that important to have that in there?
It's important because if students can't see themselves or feel themselves in the curriculum, you automatically lose them. It becomes just another thing that adults are telling them to do. And so what we really strive to do with Second Step Middle School is have it where we're starting with what the students already know, with what they're bringing to the classroom. And so they start to see a second step as something that's for them, that's helping them become the person that they want to be.
Mm-hmm. And for the teachers and counselors who are doing the lessons, how does that work for them? Is it, because I think it could be intimidating to kind of hand the floor over to students to talk about kind of their own experiences, especially around some of the personal topics that come up in a social emotional learning program.
Yeah, so we have some spaces within our lesson plans where we have a prep section for teachers where we make notes of where, hey, some sensitive topics might come up here. And then we also really encourage the adults, teachers, and counselors to reflect on their own experiences and bring themselves to the lessons as well, because that makes it more authentic and more
Oh,
real for the students too.
I like that. That's a kind of a neat way to frame it. I think, I've heard a lot about bringing authentic student voice. That's a buzzwordy thing that you hear a lot in education sometimes. But I don't know if I've ever actually heard bringing authentic teacher voice into a lesson before. I think that's neat. What's been the reaction? What was the kind of as you were putting together kind of these adaptations and really trying to focus on this? What was the reaction that you saw as you were creating the updated lessons?
Yeah, so we actually just finished a series of focus groups with teachers who've been using the new updated
Hmm.
program this year. And it's really been a joy. And I'll be honest, like I'm not a super sentimental person, but there's this one like quote that just really stuck out to me and just really warmed my heart was when a teacher was saying, that she can tell the difference in her students on the days that they have second step because there's more energy and more
Hmm.
positivity throughout the rest of the school day. So they do it in the morning. So
Hmm.
throughout the rest of the school day, there's just more energy and positivity because the students and teachers are having such great conversations. And so that's one quote from our focus groups that kind of has really stuck with me. But also, kind of going back to the authentic teacher voice, is that in those focus groups as well, a lot of teachers are telling us that, even in those 5 to 10 minutes right before they're preparing for second step, where they're going through the lesson and going through the lesson plan, they're able to mark places where they can make it their own,
Hmm.
where they can bring in parts of themselves and really connect their lives and students' lives to what's happening in the lesson content. So it makes it all around, not just, again, like you said, not just authentic student voice, but
Hmm.
authentic teacher voice. So
Hmm.
it's a more relevant experience for everyone.
Hmm. What does it look like when this comes in? So I don't know if you can like think of an example that stands out to you from a lesson that
Mhm.
you've seen or feedback that you've gotten of how that authentic voice kind of shapes a lesson. You mentioned a couple of the activities where they can bring it in. What
Mhm.
does that actually look like? What's something interesting or that you've seen that kind of comes from hearing those voices?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that, so we've observed a lot of lessons this year. And so I'm trying to think of a specific moment. And one that I can think of is a sixth grade classroom where, and it's not just in the sixth grade classroom, but in a lot of classrooms, they have the scenarios and they're talking through and they're like, okay, but here at our school, I think it would actually end up playing out a little more like this.
Hmm.
And this is really how we would respond. And this is what I would do differently. And so they're still able to have a constructive conversation, but it's not so narrowly focused on necessarily exactly the way that we present it.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like they're making they make the scenarios their own.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm thinking of in my head is that I see in my role, I see sometimes people posting on Twitter or on Facebook stuff from their classrooms, and specifically that activity that you mentioned, where the seventh graders are creating PSAs around bullying prevention, and I've
Mhm.
seen some really neat different things where they're not it's not what I would expect. Like I can think of a
Mhm.
of a like a generic activity like that and think just don't just stop bullying or things like that. But
Yeah.
I actually see students that are creating things and they make me laugh sometimes and and they just they're just different and I really appreciate
Mhm.
that and something I really enjoy and I'm wondering if there's things that you've seen where you've really that have caught your eye in a similar sort of way.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that I do see, thank you for sharing them. They usually come from when you're sending in from the community, and for some reason, it's been a lot around that Unit 2 bullying and harassment and
Hmm.
the bullying prevention posters. But You did make me think of one teacher. We weren't able to observe our scheduled lesson with her. And so she sent in the students bullying prevention posters, and kind of to your point of like, that's not what I would have expected to see. Like it was so much in their, just in their own words, you know, and it wasn't just like bullying is bad, stop bullying. They like, you know, like it used like their own slang and like youth culture. And I found that to be really cool as well.
So I've got one last question for you. It's a question I
Okay.
ask everybody who's been coming in for the Meet the Makers interviews. Is just thinking, kind of stepping aside from the topic at hand. Just think of the like entirety of the middle school program. What is your favorite part, or one favorite thing, something that some element of the program that when you think of it or when you've seen it in the classroom just really makes you happy and or makes you proud of the program? I'm wondering if there's something like that that comes to mind for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a lot of things that make me proud about it. Um, I would have to say right now, I think one of my favorite things are the real voices that we captured last year during the pandemic, because they were in children's homes in their true environment. They feel even more real and even more raw than some of the other real voices we've done, where we've gone to schools and or even like set up an area to record them. And so just the honesty and the realness in those real voices, where they're talking about the stress from the pandemic and they're talking about different goals that they've set, I think is probably one of the aspects of the program right now that excites me the most.
That's really cool. I have to go back and are those in the program right now?
Yeah, they're currently in the program.
Okay, I have to go back and
released.
look for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unit 3.
Okay. I'll go back and look. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Williams. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and to join us here in the Second Step community.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And this is not going to be the last of these that we're going to be doing. Oh, I just pushed the wrong button. There we go. So join us next week. We're going to be having Terrell Hughes, who is the product manager for the middle school program, is going to be coming to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my own heart, which is advisory activities in the advisory program in the middle school that's embedded into the Second Step middle school program. So it'll be just about the same time next week. If you are in our community, then you can watch it right there. And if you are not in our community, you can watch it wherever you happen to be watching right now. And if you're wondering what is this community that we're talking about right here, this is the Second Step Educator community. It's a space. It's a Facebook community for everyone who is using the Second Step program. It's a fantastic resource with collectively tens of thousands of years of experience among just a wide variety of educators who have using all of our different programs. I really encourage you to join. If you haven't joined yet, join the conversation in there. It's a great resource for you where you can connect with lots of other people who are doing the same work you're doing across the country and around the world. So until then, thank you all very much, and take care.